Hello, my name is Brian Helmanack. I am the Associate Director of Residence Life here at the University of St. Thomas. And on behalf of our entire department, welcome to our 2018 on-campus housing session, or as all of you know it as, the last session of the day. And that means we will try to get through this as quick as possible, but still want to make sure that we answer all your questions and give you the time that you deserve in hearing about our on-campus living. Quick outline of what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how Residence Life communicates both with our students and with parents and guests. We're going to talk about our staff resources in our halls, what it means to live on campus, a little bit about our halls as described to us by some of our staff members, our student staff members. We'll talk a little bit about assignments, how we handle roommates and particularly roommate conflicts. We're going to review this wonderful handout sitting in front of you. If you have not received a handout at this point, can I have you raise your hand really tall? We're looking for one handout per kind of unit here today. If you did not receive one, put your hand up really high, and our folks will come around and make sure they get them here before we get too far along. Thank you. And then we're going to cover move-in information, and then some FAQs and answer some questions as well. So first, with communication, particularly communications with our students. St. Thomas's official form of communication with our students is through their St. Thomas email and their St. Thomas email address. This means that when we are communicating to students, that is the address we will send information to, whether that's how to sign up for break housing, whether that's your housing assignments, whether that's information about housing for next year, or other important information you need to know. It will go to your St. Thomas email address. If you are not checking that account, you please need to start doing that here in the next week, as you'll be getting important things out here in the next week, and then further on as we get closer to arrival onto campus. We also put information out on our website, stthomas.edu/residencelife. This is another official form of communication as we have for the university. It is where we share public information, so parents and guests, it's a great place for you to see what is going on. We also have social media. Facebook is listed up here, but we also have Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to follow us. Same UST Res Life as the kind of the back end of those different accounts. Facebook is not official, however, we do try to echo a lot of our information out there that we put officially on our site. We also try to do some fun things as well to show about what is happening in our halls and on our campus. We have our parent newsletter that comes out from our Dean of Students office every month, and Residence Life always has a blurb on that. You can sign up that through the Dean of Students website. It's called the St. Thomas Parent, and again, it will come out monthly from that office. Phone calls from family. The one thing I will point out to you here is that we welcome you to call us at any time, particularly if you have a student who's having an issue or a concern and they feel it's not being resolved at a hall level. We ask that you call in, but we also make sure that you let your student know you're calling. It is really difficult that in a conversation that you're having with your student and they say, you know, please don't call, just let it go, let it go, let it go. And then you call us. That's going to cause a lot of drama for you and for me, because I can't call your student later. Let's say it's a roommate conflict, and they've shared that with you, but they're not sharing it with anyone else, and they've asked you not to share it. You then call me, I'm going to have to call your student. I now have to act on it. But they're not going to believe me when I call them and say, I was watching Wheel of Fortune last night, and the clue was, this student is having a roommate conflict. And it was your name, look at that, so I called you. They don't believe it, so make sure that your student knows you're calling. You know, even if it's, hey, I think we need to get other people involved at this point, let me make a call on your behalf. We do ask that they do try to take some of that initiative first, however. So who do they do that with? Well, these are our staff resources in our halls. The first line for all of our students is their resident advisor. They live on every floor in our buildings, in our first-year halls, and they are our first stop for all questions, concerns. They're really our mentors, our mediators, and our helpers on our campus for our students. So whether that's a question of whether or not you try to figure out what building is MHC on your schedule and which one is MCH, they are two very different buildings. They will get you to very different places. Make sure you ask those questions and they can use them as a great resource. If you're struggling with math, if you're struggling with writing, and you need help and you need to know where those resources are, your RA is a great place to stop and ask those questions. If you go to your RA and you feel that maybe they're not helping with a roommate conflict or some concerns you're having, we then have our professional staff who live in our halls. That is our area directors and our hall directors. They are our master's level professionals who live in, or they're continuing and working toward their master's degree, and they really handle those escalated issues. So a roommate conflict that the RA has sat down with the 2 students, 3 students, 4 students, however many it is, and they can't work through it together, that's when our area and hall directors will be involved. Anything beyond that escalates to our central office, both to myself as the Associate Director for kind of housing and operations, our Associate Director, Erica Thompson, who I think you met earlier today, with regards to kind of personnel issues or concerns or anything that is more kind of a personal nature outside of just, hey, I want to change a room. Okay? So what does it mean to live on campus? We talk about particularly 2 aspects that really play into what we see as the common good at St. Thomas. One is responsibility for your own actions and behaviors. That is, you are responsible for what you do, what you say, what happens when you're around. So that means not playing your music past quiet hours and keeping the entire building up with your bass. It means not having people past visitation hours when your roommate is trying to sleep and you guys are up playing video games or hanging out or just hanging out and talking, whatever the case may be, and they want to sleep. It means understanding what our alcohol policy is and understand that state law in Minnesota, which will not change by September 1st to the best of my knowledge, is that you must be 21 to drink. Last but not least, what I would ask is, the big one is respect for others. That is, St. Thomas has a diverse background. We have people from all over the place, different backgrounds, different class, different race, different ethnicities, different statuses. Make sure that you're respectful of one another and how that contributes to us as a community and how we can help make sure that everybody feels included as a part of our community at St. Thomas, which is one of the things that we really strive for. There also needs to be some responsibility for yourself and items. The biggest one here will be making sure how you handle keys and locks and doors and all of that. Some of you may never have carried a key in your life up to this point. And so what that means is you will have a key to your residence hall room. You'll have an ID card that gets you into your residence hall. If you don't have those items, it's going to be really hard for you to get in and out of places. It also means that if you don't have your key because you went down to shower in the morning and you didn't take it with you, and your roommate decides to get up and go straight to class without showering, you're the person locked out in a towel. Don't be that person. Now, generally, people aren't coming to our office anymore asking for keys and towels, thankfully. So what they'll call us on the phone, however, and say, someone please come help me. And we have people who do that. But we ask that you make sure, keep that key with you at all times, get a lanyard, get whatever you need to make that easier. We also ask that you lock your rooms. The biggest piece of that being public safety will tell you that most of the theft that happens on our campus is unattended items, and it could be unattended items in an unlocked room in our halls. So if you open a door, something's sitting right on the desk, right? Or right on the dresser right inside. That could be a wallet, set of keys. That could be a phone, a laptop, books. All of those are valuable items, and they can disappear very quickly. So make sure you're locking your doors. Your ID card, you all should have one of these after your afternoon sessions. Has your beautiful picture on it from whatever you're wearing today, which you'll look at in 4 years and go, what was I thinking? Make sure you carry this at all times. It's a requirement of the university. It's what gets you into food service. So if you want to eat, you need to have your card. Or if you want to get into our halls. So the hall you live in, or if you're visiting friends in another hall, that's how you get in. Okay. Last but not least, make sure that you're using public safety, particularly for walking, particularly walking at night. St. Thomas is a beautiful campus. I saw many people out today kind of enjoying out in our patio area, our lower quad. It makes you think that you're not really living in St. Paul. and in the St. Paul, Minneapolis, greater Twin Cities area. But we are, and that means that things happen. And so we ask, if you are alone, particularly at night, but it can be during the day, call public safety up and say, hey, I'm trying to walk from Brady Educational Center to John Paul II or Ireland. I'm alone, I don't feel comfortable, please come help me. They will come drive you up there, or they'll walk with you to that location. We also, talk about the buddy system, right? Walk with somebody else, walk with a group of people, you're less likely to have something happen. So please be aware of your surroundings and your safety. So what should you know about our halls? So we asked our student workers in our office before orientation began and said, what are those things that you would want to know or would have wanted to know before you came in as a first-year student? First one up here, laundry is included in your housing costs. Meaning you go down to the machines, you touch the button, it starts up, you throw your clothes in, your soap in, you're all set to go. You do have to bring your own soap and laundry, fabric softener, whatever the case may be. You also have to know how to do laundry before you get here to be successful in this. Most guys understand red does not go with white, ever, or else you'll end up with a lot of pink. Although pink is getting trendy again, so that might be okay. But make sure that you have that skill set as you come to college. Air conditioning, we get asked about a lot. Air conditioning is only available in Murray Hall. So for our folks in our P2E, Pathways to Engineering, and our Kojo Mojo LLCs, you're in good luck. You're going to be in air conditioning. Outside of that, you may not bring an air conditioner for any reason without medical documentation, and then that is a coordinated process with Disability Services and our office. We want you to be at home at St. Thomas and in our halls, so please bring things to decorate your walls, make it feel like home. However, those wonderful, beautiful tapestries that you hang across your ceiling from side to side, those are a no-no. That's a big fire hazard in our halls. So make sure nothing can go across our ceilings. That also includes lights. They cannot go ceiling to ceiling, side to side. So make sure that you leave those items at home. Power strips are okay. We love power strips. We recommend 2 per student. Please do not bring just a single extension cord with end and end. Those are not allowed via St. Paul Fire Code, so please do not bring them. Last but not least, St. Thomas and our halls have a very strong sense of community. And what that means is it's as much of a community as you want to be a part of it. So you need to take some action as students to find that community in which you fit. Whether that's being in your living learning community, whether that's being our residence hall associations, kind of like our hall councils, whether that's being in a club or an org. We have over 130 clubs and organizations on this campus. And guess what? If there's a club or an organization that doesn't exist that you're interested in, you find a group of students, you can become a club or an organization on this campus. So let's change gears a little bit and talk about assignments. So, some of you may have heard by now, or if you stopped by our table earlier today, emails will be sent on July 23rd. That is 2 Mondays away from where we are now. They will not go out until after 5 p.m. I will warn you that already, so please do not call our office at noon asking about your housing. It will be after, we have an orientation that day, so it will happen after orientation is done, okay? The housing deposit date, the date where you put money down saying, I want to live on campus, is the most important date in assigning our students. And as some of you have heard, we have a pretty large first-year class. So we have students who are in expanded housing. For men, we have lounges, and we have a lower-level coach residence that came into existence about 8 years ago now that we use for this expanded housing. Women, we use lounges and Dowling for that. And some people are in that based on that housing deposit date. St. Thomas does not guarantee housing. One thing to note about that is that if you were signed up with a roommate, you found someone on Facebook or someone you knew in person, and you had a really early deposit date. Let's say you deposited on January 4th, and they deposited on April 27th. We average those 2 dates together to get the date for assigning. So that might mean you, with the very early date, may not get your first choice in housing. It also will probably mean that the person that you're with is not going to get their last choice in housing, which might be the case. So make sure you're aware of that. If you've not talked to your roommates about that already, it's a little too late, so I apologize. LLCs, special interest areas, and our roommate preferences, that all factors into this process, okay? So all of these things play together along with that housing deposit date to get your assignment. What does that mean? 90% of our students get their first or second choice in housing, which is still pretty good for about 14, just short of 1,500 first-year students coming onto campus this year. That's a pretty good number, 90%. Roommates in conflict. So what happens on the 23rd? You're going to get an email, you're going to log into Murphy Online, go into the student housing system, and you're going to see your roommate name, you're going to see the building and room number as well. And what's the first thing you're all going to do? Oh, come on, you know. You're going to go to Facebook, and you're going to look up the picture of the person you're living with, if you didn't know them prior. And you're going to make a quick judgment. You're going to say, I either really like this person, or oh my gosh, what did I do? I trusted my counselor telling me to let the process happen, and now I'm scared. What I'd ask is to take a step back, evaluate, and get to know that person. Make that phone call. Don't just randomly text people, because we don't know that everyone's going to check their messages here right at 5 o'clock on the 23rd. Start with a phone call, talk, and then you can text back and forth. That's just fine. But make sure you have those conversations. When you get to campus, part of Welcome Week and Extended Welcome Week is you are going to do roommate agreements with that person. So that means you will sit down and talk about what you think is okay to happen in the room, what shouldn't happen in the room. So are you sharing a refrigerator? How do you know whose food is what? Can you eat each other's food? Can you not? Make sure you have those conversations. You can start having those conversations now. It will help your roommate agreement later. We also will require that if you have any type of conflict, that you must communicate face-to-face. There will be no sitting on opposite sides of the room, sending Facebook messages, texting, tweeting, Instagramming, Snapchatting, what am I missing? Everything else, right? No social media or electronic communication with regards to conflict. We also ask that if you need to, involve a mediator. That's that RA we talked about earlier. Generally, moving is going to be the last option. Particularly the first 2 weeks of school, I will tell you there will be probably no space for you to move to. Even if space does open, I want you to understand that just because you see a space somewhere else, either in your building or it might be in a completely different building, that may not be your first choice. There's also no guarantee that roommate is going to be any better than the roommate you currently have. This whole idea that the grass is greener on the other side, we know isn't always the case. One thing I'd ask you to note as well is that there might be a reason that person is already living by themselves. Didn't think about that, did you? Make sure that you really, really want to take that approach before you want to make a move. If we are able to accommodate it, we definitely will work with you on that, but make sure you're making an educated decision about that. So as we look at our handout here that you have in front of you, the front side has some suggested tips for parents, maybe things to talk about before you arrive, a little note from our director and our Associate Dean of Students, Dr. Erin Mackey. And then if you flip it over to the back side, you'll see a couple of other things. You'll see move-in date on the upper right-hand side of that. Note that it does say on there that our out-of-state students, you will have an early move-in option. You will receive an email about that to your St. Thomas email account and how to sign up for that here in the next couple weeks. On the left side, you'll see important dates for housing for next year. Some things to note about that, particularly breaks. Most of our breaks, we do ask that students sign up if they are going to be here for any or all of those breaks, just so we know who's in our buildings and to make sure we have staffing levels that are appropriate for that. We'll also talk about our housing process for next year. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but there's some important dates about that. And last but not least, our end of the year move-out dates. That finals week, students are supposed to be out of their housing 24 hours after their last final. What I can also tell you is that there is no move-out on the Saturday of graduation, because we have graduation on our campus and there's no room to be doing move out. So plan ahead for that, please, and be thinking about that. I know you're not even here yet, but I'm asking you to think ahead. Make sure you're planning ahead. And the most important part is that really you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Unless you're going to pay for summer housing, and then you're more than welcome to stay the entire summer with us. So, move-in for most students will occur on Friday, August 31st this year. You will receive a packet in early August of information. That will include a parking card, one per student moving in. So you are able to bring one vehicle at a time through our area for move-in and check-in. You may not bring U-Hauls. You may not bring large trailers into our areas. If you want to unload 3 blocks away and carry it all in, more power to you, but you will not be allowed through our process on campus with those items. The one thing I will note about U-Hauls in particular, if you look at most of our residence halls rooms and you look at a U-Haul, the U-Haul is bigger most of the time. So keep that in mind that if you are bringing a U-Haul and the roommate is bringing a U-Haul, that's going to be a fun day for you all to figure out what's staying and what's going. We also have many events for that. Move-in weekend we'll talk about in a little bit. Sully's crew, we do have students, staff, and faculty who volunteer on that day to help move students in, be greeters, and helping all around campus. We're very excited about that opportunity to help our students move in as a part of that. And early arrivals. Our athletic and academic reason early arrivals, LLCs, varsity sports, you will receive notice from us in early August if your coach or your supervisor or whoever you're working with is coordinating an early arrival for you, and you will get that emailed to your St. Thomas email, and you will be able to see it in your housing information online. So welcome days. Welcome days happens right after move-in on the 31st. Mom, dad, guests, you all get to go home, and then for the next 4 days in a little bit, the students are going to be working with us and having our welcome days. And to prep you for that, I'm going to show you a little video. So welcome days, one of the last things you saw there was the word march. One of our traditions here at St. Thomas is that on Tuesday the 4th, all of our students line out near Summit Avenue on this side of the arches. The arches connect our Aquinas and our John Roach Center buildings out here in the lower quad. And it is tradition that our students march in through the arches, down the sidewalk, and into the convocation. This is then bookend. As a graduate, when you graduate from St. Thomas, we do a march out of the arches. So before graduation Saturday, the seniors gather in the lower quad and march out to end their time at St. Thomas. It's a really cool experience. Family and guests are more than welcome to attend if you're able. It's a really fun and uplifting time as a lot of the community is out there cheering our students as they become official Tommies marching through the arches. So some really quick questions here today, and then we'll open it up for questions from all of you. So first is, will we see some sample rooms today? Unfortunately, for a lot of reasons, many of you, or all of you, don't know where you're living yet for next year. So for that doesn't really help us to bring you around and show you rooms that you may or may not be in when you get your assignments here in a couple weeks. But we will have a video at the conclusion of the session today that is completely optional, but you are more than welcome to stay. And then you are able to see kind of an overview of all of our halls. It's about 7 minutes long, So it really won't take too much of your time, but if you're more than welcome to stay to do that if you want. By the 23rd, our website will include more information and videos on our website of all the different residence halls, so you may be able to get a better sense from those as well. So what happens if I don't like my roommate or assignment? Can I waitlist for a room change? It is likely at this point that we will not be accepting requests for changes to rooms due to our limited space. If for any reason that were to change, I will be in contact with students via their St. Thomas email to talk about how that waitlist process may work. Do we need renter's insurance? Get this question a lot. In your August mailing, you will see information about renter's insurance. There is a company that we have worked with in the past that they basically offer insurance to St. Thomas students as renter's insurance. What you'd probably want to do, parents and guests, double check your homeowner's insurance and what is covered and what that deductible might be, or if you can add something supplementally onto that. I would also say the thing you need to understand if something happens on our campus. So for instance, 2 years ago now, we had a young woman who was hanging clothes on a sprinkler head in her room. And in a rush one morning, because she was a little bit late, was not careful in taking that off and triggered the sprinkler. Flooded her room and about 9 rooms around her and rooms below her. St. Thomas's insurance covers our loss, so our furniture, our carpet, anything we need to do to repair a room. It does not cover student loss. That student lost cell phone, laptop, all of her books, multiple sets of clothes that just were not recoverable, probably a couple $1,000s worth of damage. So make sure you have coverage for that. That student did not have coverage. Okay. Last but not least, how does housing work for next year? We talk a little bit about it at the parent handout. What I can tell you is this: St. Thomas has made a commitment over the last couple years to increase the amount of housing dedicated strictly for our second year or our sophomore students. And so for those of you who've been here previously, you've probably heard about, oh, sophomores, there's no room for sophomores, there's nothing good for sophomores. That is changing, and it's changing pretty significantly. We over doubled the amount of dedicated space last year, and we'll continue to add that space this upcoming year as well. So do not just hurry out and try to sign a lease in December. Go through our process, because even after our process ends, there is time for you to look off-campus housing. Trust me, there's still housing available within 6 blocks of campus right now for those people who are still struggling to find housing. So just make sure, don't jump the gun, go through our process. There's no deposit for our process, and it's just basically saying you're interested in going through, seeing what's available. You can sign up, and then students generally have a month to cancel with us without any penalty or fees. Okay? Any questions from the entire group before we move on? Such a quiet group today. Everyone wants to go home on video. Who's going to the lake? They already left. Excellent. All right. So here's what we will do now. If you do not want to stay for the video, we'd ask that you go ahead and leave. If you could please leave your name tag. You can keep the lanyards. There's bins out back as you're leaving. Please put them there. After that group leaves, we will start our video, and then I'll stick around for any questions that you might have about that.